Kelli Lemon, RVA Groove, standing outside of Pasture, Richmond, Virginia, right here on Gray Street. We're going to go in a second and talk to owner and executive chef Jason Alley about his wonderful restaurant that celebrates local foods right here in Richmond, Virginia. We've given you the visual arts. We've given you the performing arts. Now it's time to celebrate the culinary arts. Let's go on inside and check Pasture out. Once again, Kelli Lemon, RVA Groove, celebrating all things arts and culture. I am now inside of the beautiful Pasture restaurant, and I have the opportunity to talk to the owner and executive chef, Jason Alley. Jason, how are you?
Couldn't be better. How are you?
I am good. Jason, talk a little bit about yourself. How did you get this started? Where you from? All that good stuff.
I'm from Virginia originally, from southwestern Virginia, and traveled around a lot, moved and lived in different places with my wife, and we came back to Richmond about 12 years ago. And we opened Comfort about 2 years after we moved here. So it's been a long time being in downtown Richmond, and we love it. It's been great. So about 8 months ago, we opened Pasture, which is our second restaurant in town, and it's been great. We love being downtown. The neighborhood's incredible, and everybody's been really supportive, so it's been fun.
Right. How'd you get into the restaurant business? You talked about Comfort, and if you're from Richmond, you know what Comfort is about. Talk a little bit about Pasture and how this business evolved.
Well, you know, Comfort's been wonderful for us, but at 10 years of cooking meatloaf and squash casserole, I got a little bit bored, so we looked for an opportunity to do something a bit more creative. So with Pasture, we have a bit more of a small plate concept. So if you've ever been to a tapas restaurant, or like, you know, Greek restaurants like Mezzas, that's sort of the idea here, except we're still doing it with Southern food. So local, a lot of local providers, but that gives me a lot more creativity. It's not those just big, hearty, really comforting plates of food that you get at Comfort, which I'm super proud of. But this gives us an opportunity to use different ingredients and really branch out a bit. So it's been great.
Now, when people think of Richmond, Virginia, the first thing that pops up in their mind is not food. It is starting to get that way. And so for the foodies that are out there saying, hey, when I am in Richmond, there are a lot of great places to eat nowadays. Talk about that trend a little bit. I
think the best thing that's happened food-wise in Richmond, the producers around us, the farmers, the cheesemakers, the growers, the brewers, that whole culture has really blown up in the last 5 years. And so I think for us as restaurants, we have more opportunity to use these local providers, which is incredible. But also I think the chefs have really embraced being from Richmond and being Southern cooks, as opposed to feeling like you had to be Italian chef or you had to be a French chef. Being a Southern chef is really important and valid, and I think really valuable. So I think that's been the best thing that's happened. And once that sort of flipped, you've seen a lot more places opening up that are super creative and really locally driven. It's been wonderful for the city. Yeah. So.
And we're going to sit down and talk to you at the bar so I can talk about some of the drinks. And then, of course, I'm going to get in the kitchen. Good. So let's take some time. Once again, I am talking to Jason Alley. He's the executive chef and owner of Pasture Restaurant right here in Richmond, Virginia, located in the heart of Gray Street. In order to enjoy local food, you have to enjoy local adult beverages. And here at Pasture, you have a variety, from the beers to the wines to also the actual liquor. Talk a little bit about the beers first.
Well, we have 16 draft beers. We don't do any packaged beers to be as green as we can. So we're not, you know, recycling bottles is great, but the best way to really solve that problem is to not use bottles at all. So all of our beers draft. 16 taps, 8 of which are from Virginia, and the other 8 are from the East Coast. So nothing west of the Mississippi. Once again, to try and really keep that local flavor, but also to minimize the carbon footprint. We really want to make sure we're keeping things as tight as we can. You want to try a delicious Richmond beer?
Sure. And I was going to ask you, when you say local beers and you say from Virginia, what parts of the state are the beers coming from?
All over the state. We have 2 from Richmond, Legend, which I think everybody knows, and Hardywood Park, which is a pretty new brewery, and they're doing a great job. We have beers from Tidewater, we have beers from southwestern Virginia, and we have beers from northern Virginia. So really it spans the whole state, which is great.
All right. So which one is this right here?
This is the Hardywood Park Hoppler. So it's aged with poplar wood, and then a lot of delicious hops. It's great beer.
I'm
See what you think. Absolutely.
Ooh, the aftertaste.
Good, right? So right here we just pulled out a couple of our Virginia wines. We have a great sparkling wine. That's the grapes are grown outside of Charlottesville, and it's done in the champagne method, by a guy named Thibaut Janison. It's outrageously good. And then the red that you'll see over there is Barbersville Vineyards, which is one of the biggest and most productive vineyards that we have in the state. That's also outside of Charlottesville. And in the middle, you'll see a delicious bottle of vodka, Cirrus vodka, that's actually made right here in Richmond from potatoes.
And I know a lot of people don't know that we do have liquors right here in Richmond that are made. I would try that, but beer before, you know the words. All right. Well, now that we've looked at all the local wines and liquors and beers, let's move on into the kitchen and look at the local food.
Sounds great.
All right. Finally, Jason, we have made it over to the kitchen area. Talk a little bit about your menu, the appetizers, the main courses, and of course, dessert.
Sure. Well, you know, like we said before, we really try and keep things as local as possible. So we have a bunch of different farmers we use for vegetables. We use local cheesemakers. We have local animals that we get in, whole animals that we butcher ourselves. We have a really aggressive curing program, so we do all of our bacon in-house. We cure pastrami out of pork loins. So it's a lot of fun. So one of the appetizers you'll see is actually a loin from a pig that we butchered here that was raised outside of Waynesboro, Virginia. And then we cured that pork loin like you would cure pastrami. So we did a wet cure and then smoked and rubbed in delicious spices. It's great with a homemade pickled chow chow. And all those vegetables are actually from local farms as well, which is great. But we're really appetizer and snack heavy. So a big small plates portion of the menu, which is a lot of fun, meant to be shared and passed around. And you know, it's a way to be able to try a bunch of different stuff and not just sit down to a huge entree. But we do have some entrees on the menu as well. So you'll see out there, we do a fish and dumplings. So it's sort of like a potato gnocchi with a local fish, local meaning North Carolina to Virginia, somewhere around in there. But we're doing tuna right now. It's being caught off the Outer Banks. It's beautiful stuff. We do a chicken country captain, which is a historical dish from Savannah. When the spice trades came through. So it's a tomato curry gravy with heirloom rice that's grown in South Carolina. It's a great dish. So.
I am so ready to eat. You are making me hungry. But the last thing, of course, you get your drink, you have your appetizer, you have your main dish. Last thing is that dessert.
Absolutely. And my chef de cuisine and pastry chef, Joe Sparata, is great. His desserts are wonderful. So we did a candy bar for you today, which is dark chocolate, salted caramel, hazelnut candy. It's really, really nice. And then we do a jelly roll as well. So we use local strawberries, and we actually do a pickled green strawberry that we use to thicken it because there's a lot of pectin in green strawberries. So it's a real traditional jelly roll with lemon curd. It's fantastic.
Well, Jason, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to RVA Grooves. Your restaurant is phenomenal. We love the fact that it's in the heart of Gray Street. We're revitalizing downtown, and that's what's important. So before we end this, how do people get to Pasture, and how do they follow you?
Absolutely. So they can follow us at Pasture RVA on Twitter. They can like us on Facebook, which is awesome. And we do a lot of password specials and kind of fun stuff with that. PastureVA.com is our website. And the best thing to do is drive down to 416 East Grace and come see us at the restaurant.
You heard it from him. Come on down to East Gray Street. Check out Pasture. Kelli Lemon once again for RVA Grooves. We'll be right back.